Hey, this is Chris with Rekkid Talk. So this week we're going to do another episode with 7-inch records that I've dug over the past few months. The theme today is going to be blind buy country. So these are basically blind buys of records that I knew or suspected were country and western or bluegrass or something along those lines. These are going to come from a variety of sources. Some of them came from the Crazy Chaotic Good Antique Store, where I was getting them 5 for $1 or even 10 for $1, depending on the day. There's the flea market, where we had tons of country singles and company sleeves, a lot of promos, $1 each. There was also a dig I had a few months ago in an antique mall where I got a lot of records of various genres, ranging from $1 to $4. I got a lot of picture sleeves and a lot of promos that day. A lot of stuff I got that day was like rock or soul as well, but there was a little bit of country in there. So let's start off with something that's rockabilly, so this is Ray Smith, Rockin' Little Angel, on the Judd label from 1959. And you might be wondering why I'm showing this record today. Well, a lot of the rockabilly people ended up sort of transitioning to quote unquote straight country into the 60s and 70s. And Ray Smith's guitar player was one such person, Stanley Walker, who I showed a different record by him I'd found before. He's still alive. He's in, I think he's early 80s now. Was, as of at least a couple of years ago, was still actively playing music in this area. He's from a town that's probably an hour or so away from here. Ray Smith was also from Western Kentucky. So Little Miss Sunshine and Dear Jeannie. So this is on Shadow Records, which was a minor label out of Paducah, Kentucky. This record is not on Discogs. I think it's from the late 70s or early 80s. Unfortunately, this was very much countrypolitan, sort of mainstream Nashville wannabe, and this will be a theme with some of the other records. Go back, and in this case, to your rockabilly roots. I found another record on Shadow Records as well. And so this is by Terry Mike Jeffrey and Flight 602. Side A is called You Don't Know Me, and side B is called Body Heat Beat. And so this one was on Discogs, and the genre was listed as disco, AOR, funk, folk rock, and lounge. And I'm pretty sure this is from 1980 because he had an album in 1980 with these songs on it. This guy, Terry Mike Jeffrey, has sort of made a living over the past 40 years in this area, playing generally in cover bands. This is disco for white people, particularly the B-side Body Heat Beat. It's white people disco. Okay, so the next one, and this ended up being one of my favorites from the stuff I'm showing this episode. So we got a picture sleeve for $1. We got this pretty young woman, Paula Darlene. She's wearing her hat, and they plug her on the back here. Born in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And when I did research on her, it ended up being a very sad story. So it turned out that Paula was born with what is known, layman's term is brittle bone disease, and she was confined to a wheelchair. She only grew to be like 4 feet tall, from Louisiana. She'd spent a lot of her life in a children's hospital. She actually ended up, and I think they actually talked about it, has performed, sort of the second line from the bottom, has performed for Children's Hospital in New Orleans, is their first former patient to present a show. And so this was put out in 1982 when she was 18 years old. And it turns out that this NSD, I think, is basically like a private press. So they made this as a promo and sent it out, and obviously trying to get the attention of DJs. And she actually wrote both of the songs. It's her only Discogs entry, and the songs are actually pretty decent. There's some cool lead guitar. So it's country, but there's a bit of AOR in it as well. It's not like the schmaltzy, stringy, overproduced stuff. There was some piano playing. I think Paula was also playing piano in addition to singing. But unfortunately, this was the only recorded music of hers that I know of, and she ended up passing away only 32 years old. And so, I got stuff out of order here. Okay, so the next record here is, again, this is sort of me digging stuff from unknown Kentucky artist Arthur R. Smith, Trouble in Coal Country, on Music City Records. And the flip side is called Without the Family Farm. And so this was put out in 1978. Arthur R. Smith. There are other Arthur Smiths in music. Arthur R. Smith, and this is his only Discogs entry, was a coal miner from Drakesboro, Kentucky. And there's a booking number on here that lists contact Arthur Smith in Drakesboro, Kentucky with his phone number, which is Drakesboro is in the western Kentucky coal fields. And this is it's basically a pro coal miners union song. This was before kind of Reaganism and Trumpism took hold. Research it appears that he passed away about 10 years ago at the age of 74. This would have made him about 41 years old when this record came out, and I actually thought it's a pretty good protest song. The next song, so we got another picture sleeve that I got for $1. Look at this dude, Tommy Pearsall, I Think of You. Just like a fool, open collar, big collar, chains. I mean, this guy looks kind of creepy. He probably is driving a Camaro or Trans Am. This is the first of 3 singles that appeared with him on Discogs, RCI Records, from 1982. And I'm going to be honest with you, this guy wants to be Conway Twitty, but this blows chunks. Mac Stevens would have deemed this unworthy of spending $1 on 3 seconds into playing it on his little portable record player. Next, we got another promo. I think this one's kind of cool because look, so Linda K. Lance on Triune Records, and so this was the actual envelope that this was mailed to the music director at this radio station in Jacksonville, Florida, in 1972. And then here's the actual record. And so our plug side is I've Just Gotta Feel Like a Woman Tonight. And so the research I did about her, she had some singles from like the late 60s to early 80s, but ended up really making her living singing commercial jingles. And I'll be honest, this song was pretty much boring. Third tier early 70s female country. Certainly not on the Loretta Dolly tier. It's not even on the Jeannie C. Riley, Donna Fargo tier. It's pretty average stuff. And I can't say I was really into it. I like having that. Next is somebody I hadn't heard of, but this is probably more just me showing a relative lack of knowledge in country music. So this is Rose Maddox, Mr. Jackson on Portland Records. And she was already 47 years old when this came out. She had been born in Alabama in 1925, died in Oregon in 1998. Singer, songwriter, fiddle player, had a career starting in the 30s, was named the top female country vocalist in 1963, and I've heard her musical style described as straddling hillbilly, rockabilly, and gospel, was known for flamboyant style and colorful costumes. She continued singing into the 1990s. She was nominated for a Grammy in the bluegrass category as late as 1996. But unfortunately, this record from 1972 was trying to sound like mainstream orchestrated 70s country. I'd have preferred it if it was kind of more to her roots. Next, we have Nashville Mustache on Shannon Records. One side's called Juarez Waltz. The other side is called Baja Breakdown. And I figured for $1 I couldn't not buy this. And Juarez Waltz is corny mariachi instrumental. Baja Breakdown pretty much is too, but with the addition of banjo. This is so cheesy, I feel like I'm at Casa Bonita when I'm listening to it. South Park fans or people who've lived in the Denver metro area know what I mean by Casa Bonita. Both songs were written by a guy named Dallas Frazier, who was a fairly well-known country music writer. I was wondering if he was part of Nashville Mustache. He's most well-known for writing that song Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys. Orlando Records. Look, I bought this because it was on red vinyl. Leon Everett with Danger List. Danger List is a John Cougar Mellencamp song. Leon Everett, even though I hadn't heard of him, the research was that he is somebody who had some success in the late 70s through the mid 80s, had some songs on the country charts. This made it as high as 46. It felt like an attempt at a crossover hit. Wasn't too bad, although not as good as the John Cougar version. But my research shows that his career pretty much winded down after this. We've got Tex Williams with the Toy Piano. This is from 1967 on Boone Records from Union, Kentucky. That's in northern Kentucky near Cincinnati. Unlike some of the other records, this guy is not trying to sound like mainstream Nashville of the moment, which is a compliment for me. This sounds a lot more like 40s or 50s country than 60s. And he was kind of a Western swing musician with a sort of talking blues style. He had a #1 hit called Smoke, Smoke, Smoke That Cigarette in 1947. Probably the late 40s was the heyday of his career. The next one, this is kind of an oddity. Michael C. Hilton on Olus Records. Memories on one side, Just a Ramblin' Man on the other. This is a $12 median record on Discogs, and it was listed as being from the category psychedelic rock, folk rock, country, which sounded intriguing. When I listened to the A side, it was pretty much a straight country. I didn't see where the psych was coming from. The B side, Just a Ramblin' Man, is kind of country rockish with a hint of garage. For me, is the stronger song. This is pretty obscure stuff. I don't really get the psych part out of it. Arleigh Neville with a song called Indianapolis on the Shout and Shine Records label, distributed by IRDA, International Record Distributing Association. I couldn't find an exact date, but I believe this is from the mid-1970s. The story on Arleigh Neville is he started his career in the 60s under the name Dean Carter, singing rockabilly and garage in the Champaign, Illinois era. Then kind of turned to what was called gospel rockabilly in the 70s, so trying to mix Christian music with rockabilly. And to me, this guy sounds like he really, really, really wants to be Elvis. It sounds like an Elvis impersonator. Oh, and then the Michael C. Hilton I showed just before. The area code on the record is from Northern Illinois, so we think that's from Northern Illinois as well. This video is going long, but I only got a few more records to go through. A couple on Blake Records out of Memphis, Tennessee. This is not soul. This is definitely country. We've got Jim McKee with She Makes Me Glad I'm Alive. Very unremarkable straight country song. The Indians Plea by Jim Coomer. A little bit more Western style with stereotypical lyrics. Both awfully boring for music from Memphis. And I should go back to the Arleigh Neville, Indianapolis. The flip side, Good Samaritan definitely did have a Christian message to it. And at least money-wise, this is the killer of the bunch. I bought it for $2. Median's about $40 on Discogs for it. We got Robin Lee with What Ads from, I think, 1984, mid-80s. Sort of blue-eyed female soul, at least on this particular record. Wanads was it was a hit by the Honeycomb in 1971 in a soul style. She went on to have some success, a minor success in the late 80s, early 90s in country music. She cut a version of the Black Velvet song that Atlanta Miles is known more for. The flip side, Breaking the Chains, is just an awful soft rock song. It's not the Dokken, Breaking the Chains. All right, just a couple more left. GTM Records, we have Wayne Sexton. If I knew then what I know now. GTM stands for Guntown Mountain Amusement Park. So this is in Cave City, Kentucky, near Mammoth Caves. And apparently he was the owner and music manager of this amusement park. One of the things they had was like a Wild West gunfight show in country music. The A-side's really schmaltzy country pop. Sounds like you're trying to combine Porter Wagner and Barry Manilow into a song, and it sucks. The flip side was just more of a straight country with pedal steel without the piano, and that's better. And then the last, well, I'm going to talk about two more records. One of them I don't have. It's a racist record. You shouldn't buy it. If you ever find something by Son of Mississippi on Rebel Records, it's virulent racism, and you either should not buy it or buy it and smash it. I could have bought it cheap and smashed it, but I just didn't buy it. You cannot buy or sell on Discogs due to the racist content. It is listed there. That's where I found out about it. But the last record I'm going to show you, which is actually one of the favorite ones I found, is by Carl Tipton and the Mid-State Playboys on something called RGM. It's a 4-song EP, so it's got 2 songs on each side. I think it came out in 1972, but I'm a little bit shaky on that. He lived from 23 to 89, fiddle and mandolin player, songwriter, and pioneer bluegrass showman, was a fixture of the Middle Tennessee music scene for more than 40 years, had a long-running early morning television show, which aired over 25 years on a channel from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. And this is really just kind of old-time fiddle music. I'd rather find stuff like this with my blind buys than people trying to imitate sort of mainstream Nashville countrypolitan sort of stuff. So there you go. I'm sorry, almost 17 minutes, longer than I usually go. Maybe I should have made 2 videos out of this, but I didn't.